background they need to gather in order to get up to speed and try to move the project forward. They've also had changes on the board of directors of the authority. So, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty out there at this point. Let me just tell you what our Board of Supervisors' role is on this, and that is to evaluate the information that we receive both from the proponents and the opponents, or the comments that are received to the draft document, and to, in this case, probably provide comments to the authority, because we are not the lead agency on high-speed rail in Kern County or anywhere else. We happen to be an entity that they will need to cooperate with on a number of transactions and things like that, but they are the authority. They are the ones who will look at this final document, determine what the best course of action is, and that would be to go ahead with their original recommendation, modify their original recommendation, or say, hey, we can't do this, we don't have enough money and it's not going to work. So we are not the ones who will be making that decision. I think as some of the other gentlemen who are going to speak here tonight will tell you, there have been a number of governmental entities up and down the valley that have produced a vote of no confidence on high-speed rail because they don't think the plan will work. And, you know, that's certainly their prerogative. I can tell you that on our board, we normally don't jump out and take positions on things like that until we've heard from everybody concerned and everybody's had enough time to iron out whatever differences they have before we jump to a conclusion. So that's kind of where the process is at the moment. One of the things I thought we might do is just talk about the jobs in general, and I think Richard is going to throw some numbers around in a couple of minutes here. But one of the reasons I think a lot of people in Kern County are very interested in high-speed rail is because of the fact that we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the nation, one of the highest poverty levels in the nation, one of the lowest average income levels in the nation. So the question is, well, can high-speed rail, under the right circumstances, help Kern County and its economy and its job situation? So here are some very general things here. They are saying that the construction jobs would average about 50,000 a year. There'd be lots of them. I'll let Richard talk about how many. Heavy maintenance facility, they would average at least 50,000 a year. That would go on indefinitely. The normal operations and maintenance of a facility like that, not just the maintenance facility, but the trains themselves and keeping them running, they would be indefinite jobs. But there are some indirect things that I think also have to be considered when you start talking about what the impacts are. One is the connectivity to the Los Angeles basin. We are adjacent to one of the largest population centers, the largest population center in the nation, and one of the largest population centers in the world. And we have three ways to get there. One is to get in your car and drive over I-5. The other one is to get on an Amtrak bus and drive, however route they take, 58, I-5. Or the other one is to get on an airplane and fly to Los Angeles. And here we have a state that is very linear. It's almost 1,000 miles from north to south. It's over 500 miles from San Diego in the Southern California area up to the Bay Area. And yet what we have is, you know, a system that is, I think, inadequate to serve the needs of our future, considering the fact that our population growth is expected to be about 50 million people by the year 2050. And so, in my mind, we need to have something that is a little bit more modern, a little bit more safe, and a little bit faster than the traditional means that we have, particularly on the highway. I spent a lot of time on 99 and I-5 going both north and south. I can tell you, it's no fun, and it's not safe. The other thing that they talk about in terms of job creation is that when you get a system like that in, there tends to be a considerable amount of economic development that occurs around the stations, because you have people coming in from different parts of the state and different parts of the country and world, actually, when you have that kind of an ability to get people around. And so it creates a lot of commercial centers, banking and finance, and office, retail, restaurants, entertainment, things of that nature. The other one, which is even more indirect, and one that I'm involved with, is the issue of air quality. I'm on the Valley Air District Board. In fact, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow morning. And we're in a situation now where the Valley is not meeting federal air standards, and we do not know how we're going to meet the federal air standards by 2023. The technology does not exist for us to deal with it with the stationary sources. So we're forced to look at the mobile sources, over which we have no control. The California Air Resources Board controls all the mobile sources. But what we need is a calculation of the benefits that public transportation, such as high-speed rail or rail of any speed, that can provide, that will reduce the amount of traffic that we have on our road systems. That is the primary way that we're going to be able to hopefully meet the air standards. I got about 1 or 2 more minutes. Richard, can I have 2 minutes of your time? But what's the relationship to jobs there? The relationship is that if we don't meet those federal air standards, number one, we're going to lose all of our federal transportation funding. That is what's building all of these projects that you see going on throughout Kern County right now, and have for years. That's where most of the transportation money throughout the state and throughout the nation comes from, is the federal government. If we don't meet the air standards, we lose that funding. That shuts us down. The other thing is, if we don't meet the federal air standards, you will not be able to build a new building, a new housing development. You won't be able to build anything. Richard Chapman will not be able to bring any new jobs to Kern County, because every one of those has to go through an environmental impact report, and you have to describe the impacts of your business on the air quality. And if it has any impact at all in terms of people driving to and from work or whatever, you're dead. You can't even drive in and out of your housing development without having an impact on the air quality. So, bottom line, that has a huge impact on job creation and the retention of the jobs that we already have in Kern County. So the question is, do we have a plan now before us that is going to solve those problems? I think the plan has a lot of problems, and later on, if we have time, I'd like to get into a discussion about how we got into the trouble that we got into. But for the moment, since you wanted to focus on jobs, I think we probably ought to move ahead with Richard, and then let's get into a dialogue and talk about some of the other things. So, Richard? You're very good. No booze. Thank you.
They're for later.